I'm involved in UPF is because of these key points that I wrote down yesterday. That I believe UPF has the capacity to bring diverse people together. So if I just look around, and even in my car this morning travelling down here, we have that capacity in UPF because of the kind of ethos and principles that we try to adhere to coming from our founders. And the second point is perhaps the bottom line for me, that we believe fundamentally if we can connect to each other, and our first impulse towards one another in meeting a new person this morning or meeting somebody during the day, if our first impulse towards somebody is a familial feeling, this could be my sister, this could be my brother, this could be, I was talking to Mr. Malik coming down this morning, and I felt like he is my elder brother. I was learning a lot of wisdom from his experience. I'll just mention Mr. Malik, if you don't mind, that he was, as far as I know, the only Muslim representative in Britain to be able to meet Prime Minister Modi when he came here. And he had a brief meeting, but the way he met Prime Minister Modi and David Cameron reflects the man. But I felt like he's my older brother. So, but our first feeling towards the other is sometimes not that. It's, oh, this person's wearing a hijab, or this person, has these kind of eyes, or this colour skin, but ideally speaking, we try to cultivate, especially in young people, the feeling that this is my brother, this is my sister. And that should be ideally our first impulse if we are to be one family under God, under the divine. And often the other things come first. Not that the other things are not important, but from our principal perspective, and especially in peace building, if we can cultivate that feeling as the first feeling towards my brother, my sister, this could be my child. This refugee who has just arrived from Syria could be my mother. If we have that kind of feeling in our heart, and that feeling comes from the principles that we espouse and try to adhere to. Very important. And then that can cause us to think and act and educate others in such a way as to focus on the holistic purpose, because we feel we are one family under Allah, under God. And with that kind of mind, then our thinking begins to become actually, in making a decision, in my relationship with you, in trying to do this together, what is in all of our best interest? Or we have a proposal that we'll hear more about today, during the course of the day, from one or two of us. What is in our nation's best interest? Or in tackling Syria or some conflict situation, Israel-Palestine, what is in both sides, or what is in everybody's best interest in trying to address this issue? And often we are not able to address those issues because we don't think like that. We may think from a national security, national interest point of view, but actually that can be a limiting factor in solving problems that are beyond nations. So to try and develop that holistic viewpoint, that parental heart, the good of the whole, we might say the godly perspective on issues of the day that concern all of us, and then to bring our collective wisdom to bear on these key issues of the day which affect us all, as we've seen so much this year. So in 2002, Father Moon spoke at the United Nations, and this was a seminal speech from our UPF perspective, where he tried to encourage the UN to adopt an interreligious body, like an upper chamber, that could guide the existing UN, to bring the collective wisdom of all our faith traditions to bear on the UN as an organisation. And also he proposed cross-cultural marriage as a basis for lasting peace. One of the main obstacles to doing that, as we've encountered, even though particularly Jose de Venecia, the former speaker of the Philippines government, he was pushing that at the UN. But for example, to get past the Security Council with all of its vested interests is almost an impossible stumbling block. That we'll hear about later. So just to take that feeling one step further of looking at the purpose of the whole, trying to develop this feeling that we are one family. And Father Moon, in even to include the so-called enemy, and to get rid of enmity. Not to get rid of the enemy, but to get rid of enmity, these feelings that tend to divide us. So he would always speak from example. So in 1990, then he, as the former public enemy number one of the Soviet Empire and the Communist bloc, went to Russia, risking life and limb, risking the future of our peace federations, and put his life on the line to meet this person, Mikhail Gorbachev, and build a relationship with him. And even more dramatically, in 1991, November, then he met with the very person, proactively went to meet with the very person who tried to destroy him and committed him to a death camp way back in the early 1950s. Kim Il-sung, who many of you will be familiar with. Many of you will know about the North Korean regime. And so his heart and mind even goes to that extent of this inclusive motivation in dealing with issues of the day and conflict to actually even embrace the enemy. And to quote from Martin Luther King, who also had that concept, we never get rid of an enemy by meeting hate with hate. We get rid of an enemy by getting rid of enmity. That's from something somebody told me at the UPF retreat weekend recently, that even in Islam, the concept of killing, actually going back to the original Arabic, is to destroy that in the enemy or the other person, which is causing, not to destroy the person, but to destroy the enmity in that person. But of course that's so easily twisted and manipulated for other purposes. So I hope through this little presentation you can get some sense of this desire to bring people together, to create sincere relationships, familial relationships, where we relate to each other heart to heart, and then use our common wisdom and concern and effort to tackle these issues of the day that affect all of us in building a better society for one another, for everyone. Thank you.